And welcome to another episode, another undefeated episode, another Austin episode of the Silver and Black Coffee Hour. Very excited to be with you today. My name is Tom Petrini, as always, joined by my buddies Aaron Blackerby, Zach Montana. Aaron, how you doing today?
I slept like a log last night, so I'm feeling good. And also, look, I'm gonna start this show by tooting my own horn a little bit, if you guys don't mind.
Toot away.
Um, Thank you. Um, in one of our episodes in January, we talked about what did the Spurs get to first between 40 wins or 20 losses, the Phil Jackson corollary of championship contender teams. And I think we all said that the Spurs were going to get to 40 wins before that. I called it out that it would happen in Austin, though. I said specifically in the Austin, so I
What
feel
did you
kind of proud of
know?
myself. I've been wrong about many other things on this show, so like please, no one take this, for granted. But if you like hearing that type of analysis and more, like and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts, and give comments down below on this for future questions for us to ask ourselves.
Zach
Zach,
Montana,
how are you
you're
doing?
you're a resident optimist here. You think they get to 50 wins before they get to 20 losses?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I'm always undefeated with this team, but they got a tough schedule coming up over the next month and a half, month. But this last 8 games has been fun to watch. Been blessed to enjoy it in person and had a great Austin week, so blessed and thankful for that. And ran some fans yesterday at the game and on Thursday as well. So shout out to them, Nick, and a few other guys we met. So awesome to meet y'all. And I think this week is always a great experience for people who don't get to see the Spurs every week like we do. Get the opportunity like that. Had a few buddies take their kids to see Wemby for the first time, and nothing but rave reviews. They're like, "Man, that guy was awesome." Just getting text in the middle of the game, like, "Yo, this is unbelievable." So it's. I think Austin week opens the eyes of a lot of people, and this week was a very eye-opening Austin week. They whooped ass, so it's always nice to see
Did the
that, and it's always
first time ever undefeated in the
yep.
I-35 series, and it was great running into people. We, I've been doing this for 10 years, and so like, you know, I'll run into people at games in San Antonio, and people will come up and say hey because they know me from the internet, and it's always wonderful and cool. I did feel more of that here in Austin this week, and Austin throughout the week was incredible. I was at the game on last night with my family, my non-sports family, which was amazing because they got to see the big
By the
guy.
way, your wife really loves the Spurs. You can't say she's a non-sports fan because man,
She's
she was banging on
it's
the table. She was getting all
it
into it.
it's impossible to watch a game for her, pretty much. Like if they're if it's close at all, she's pretty much having a panic attack,
So
right?
she's like me,
And
essentially.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, gotta reach over and be like, it's gonna be all right. But so her and my family was very funny to get the reviews. My mom was like, "Are his legs really that skinny, or is that like an optical illusion?" And many other such questions. But yeah, ran into a listener named Nathan. Nathan, shout out to you. Thanks for listening to the show. Thank you, everybody who listens to this show, making it possible for us to do what we do. We are going to discuss those two games in Austin. We're going to go pretty quick on them because they were very decisive victories for your San Antonio Spurs. And then we're going to get into, I guess, sort of, more pressing and interesting questions about this team as their now 8-game winning streak pushes them further and further into this we know they're contenders
Factual,
category.
a factual
Factually,
8-game winning
factually,
streak.
in
Yes.
case anybody in the Spurs PR office is listening, not technically an 8-game winning streak, factually.
Their
Um,
second factual 8-game winning streak of
yes,
the season.
And technically, this one is split up by the All Star break, the same way that technically the other one was broken up by a loss that didn't count in the Cup final against the Knicks, who the Spurs will face on this rodeo road trip. Uh, in a, you know, those teams always play bangers. Um, but should we start with the Suns the other night?
Yes. I
It
mean,
was it was a pretty serious beatdown. Suns were undermanned, right? No Dylan Brooks in this game, and he has broken his hand, unrelated to this. So they're going through some stuff. Devin Booker left this game with a hip soreness, something like that. Um,
Banged his hit.
Banged his hip. Um, and that probably came about because this was a very physical game. Steph Castle, it was clear from the jump, he had the directive. You're wearing a Devin Booker jersey tonight. You got to be all up in his business, and he was. It was very physical. It was a little chippy. There was a little talking back and forth, and it seemed that the Suns sort of responded to Steph Castle's physicality with, okay, well, we're just gonna run Book around a million screens and try to play rugby with you because like we need to rough you up back somehow. And he did a great job of running through those screens. Everybody did. Um, and it seemed like it was a great game overall on both ends for Steph Castle. It seemed like a B minus game, maybe even a C plus game for Wemby by Wemby's standards, and it was still fantastic. So for me, really interesting in this one was 25 fast break points for the Spurs. Really got out in transition. They've been playing with a lot of pace, which I know we're going to talk about later in the show. Kind of a low key 15-8 game for Fox. Near double double for Luke Cornett in like 15 minutes, who, by the way, funniest guy in the league, like easily. Uh, Luke Luke makes me giggle. And 17 points for Dylan Harper, who got run throughout the game, but also heavily in garbage time down the stretch, and he was sort of getting to solo point guard it, which was very very cool. So all around, just a dominant victory for your Spurs. Any takeaways from you guys on this one?
Yeah, you mentioned the pace. The pace really changed in that second half. I made notes here saying that man, they really came out that third quarter really just getting rebounds and pushing the pace and really put it to the Suns. The Suns were cut it to 12 there at halftime, and you're like, oh man, they're hitting threes, and they just got torn apart in that third quarter, and it was over before you know it. They subbed the subs in it 10 minutes to go in the fourth. That you never see that.
941, and I think they were up 30 at that point. And I remember we were sitting in the media area, and I was like, I guess they feel pretty confident they got this. And yeah, I mean, it was a wrap from there. This is kind of one of those things, especially too coming out of the All Star break. Like, not sure where the team is going to be. Either team, like, oh, are they ready to like come out? I thought just the energy in this game, and the same with last night's game against the Kings, was like I sense that there is a growing confidence in this group with how they're playing and with understanding like maybe we have something special here, even if no one else believes in it. And maybe we talked about this as well after All Star that everybody just feels a little slighted by being in second place, and they are now taking it out. So, um, really cool to see. And I'll use this to transition to the Kings game because Tom, you said it was a pretty mediocre game from Wemby, and then last night against the Kings, despite him having, let's see here again, 28, 15, 6 assists, and 4 blocks. Three of those happening in the first three possessions of the Suns game of the Kings game. He even said after the game, "I thought it was okay." He was very humble in saying that like my standards are higher than this.
He,
And he also
he
said
was
after the Suns game that he could be a better defender, which sure, he's not blocking every shot yet.
Yeah, no, he was like, I think this was a pretty good game by my standard and by the teams. Like, it was decent, and it was like, I mean, we've seen a lot of Wemby games. that had to be one of the most dominant in terms of attacking the rim. Like in terms of dribbling and making his way there, and also in terms of the way that he finished. Uh, the Smitty on his buddy Maxime Reynaud, like between the legs, which I didn't see until today. And then the windmill double clutch. He was talking about the dunk contest maybe after the game. Um, and that also I think opened up his playmaking in this one. He was really good diming his teammates. So yeah, fantastic Wemby game.
The crazy thing
Yeah.
is that wasn't even his best Austin performance. 2 years ago, if you want to look back to that Nets game, he had 36, 17, 7 assists, and 7 blocks. So, yeah, he is right when he says this is an okay performance from him because we've seen a lot better, but he said also this is going to be the consistent. He must be consistently this good night in and night out. I do want to touch Mitch Johnson has made multiple comments about his defensive stance and being ready in the defensive stance. We've heard that a lot from him over the last 2 to 3 weeks. I heard a lot this week when he talks about Wemby being the defensive stance and being prepared in his anticipation. He was ready last night, and it always gets you a little more
He's
riled up when you're playing your best friend.
he's playing lower. This is something we talked about, Zach, in like ways that he could gain better leverage in the post for himself is to instead of being straight up, which is how those smaller defenders get leverage on him by being like into the lower part of his back, that if he was lower and essentially sticking his ass out into them, that they can't get that leverage. And I'm seeing kind of the similar thing, at least right now on the defensive end, where he's a little bit lower. It's helping him be a little more nimble down there. And his anticipation's been great. I mean, the other thing, like both Austin games, by the way, were a little chippy. Russell Westbrook was not having it with De'Aaron Fox last night. Royce O'Neal was not having it with Stephon Castle the night before. So, um, needless to say, the Austin crowd loves to see a good potential fight because everybody started cheering for that. So that really wraps up. I mean, Austin week. Like I said, it was 2 games where Zach felt like he needed to get out his dad belt and clap it because they were belt to ass type wins.
The best
Which
thing that came from the college football season last year is whipping out the belt, smacking it with your hand.
I will
yeah,
say on last night, it was cool to see some Spurs legends in the house. DeMar DeRozan, um, Doug McDermott screwing up somebody's Spurs plus 18 and a half. Yikes. Don't gamble,
we
folks.
have to have a discussion off mic, or maybe in the off season of what designates a Spurs legend, because I know you're about to drop Drew Eubanks in here
Yeah,
too,
yeah, I figured
and
that was going to come in there
Drew
too.
Eubanks is a Spurs legend. I'm pretty sure he started the first I-35 series games.
what's
Shout out.
hilarious is that you didn't even bring out Avery Johnson was commenting on the game with Sean
Oh,
Elliott and Jacob Toby.
well, I wasn't
I feel
watching it
like
on
that
TV.
should be
I
the
did.
first
I did
one.
see. I took a picture before the game. It was Sean, the little general. Mario Ellie was there, talking to RC Buford, Mike Woodson, all hanging out before the game. It's a good reminder that this thing is a fraternity. This there's a brotherhood here. It's good to see. But yeah, no, I got crazy respect for Drew Eubanks, for
And
undrafted guy carving out a career in the league. Shout out Drew U.
let's just before we go into high praise, we'll have this positive spin. So I also got to meet Kirk Goldsberry yesterday. He was sitting courtside during warm up. So want to just shout out Kirk. I did not expect him to be so nice to a stranger right off the bat, especially just going like, "Hey, are you Kirk Goldsberry?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am. Sit down." It was okay, cool. That was very nice of him to do that. And then
Side
Tom,
story:
you met
AB's like, I'm gonna go work my way towards Kurt Goldsberry and get on the good
I'm gonna
side.
go
I'm like,
say
Zach,
hello.
Zach,
okay.
Zach, 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 Zach. Do not give away state secrets on the podcast, dude. No state secrets on the podcast. Okay, like we can't give everybody everything. And then Tom,
Okay,
you met some of the OG NBA podcasters, some dudes that I really look up to. You want to just say a little bit about that?
Yeah, the no dunks guys, man. They were at Casa de Spurs, and they were talking about it like it was an event that came together quickly. We're gonna do a live show in Austin, Texas, on a Thursday morning. Downtown on Congress. The Spurs set up a pop up. Uh, you could see the state capitol from the door, and uh, they they were like it came together quickly. We like barely promoted it on their end, and place was packed, and it was very cool. A very cool moment to realize what they have built for themselves. There were a lot of, straight up no dunks fans there. But I I think it was like probably more Spurs sickos, right? And I saw one guy in a Matt Bonner like graphic t-shirt. It was awesome. Don't let
The Red
anybody ever
Mamba?
tell you. It was a red mamba with the snake on the front.
Yeah, that was the 3-point shooting one.
Awesome. Like don't let anybody tell you that there aren't Spurs fans up here. Met a couple of listeners there. Samuel, really good guy. Eli was there. So really, really cool to see this community grow. And the No Dunks guys, I mean, they've been doing this. They've been doing this pretty much since the advent of the podcast. So truly inspirational, wonderful dudes. Every one of those guys, super duper nice.
Can I
And
give
they
you
shouted
guys a
out,
well actually real quick about the advent of the podcast and the
please.
RSS feed? The advent of the podcast and the first podcast ever is actually Grateful Dead song. I don't know if you guys knew that, but uh
You're gonna
yeah.
have to give a little
Anyway,
more than that.
I mean that's basically
What
it. Is that
what's the
like there
song called?
was
And when did it come out?
I think this was like in 1998 or 99 was like the first like use of the RSS feed. I don't remember what song it was, but I do remember that there's like this interesting historical document online that's basically like the Grateful Dead were at, and one of their songs was the first podcast under the technology of podcasting. Tom, let's just transition this anyway with the good vibes over to high praise.
Well, you talk about the
I
Grateful Dead, so we're on the high praise subject.
I
Easy.
feel like I mean I could you know let me tell you that Red Rocks 69. That's probably one of my favorites to listen to. They come out
There
cooking
you
in
go.
that one. So,
Were you there?
um, no, bro, I was not there. I was born in 1988.
Oh, you're the old man on the
Close. So
podcast, so you
close.
might have been there.
I am Unk. But Tom, you were kind of already doing it with high praise. Hey, welcome to high praise, by the way, everyone. This is where we say positive stuff about the Spurs, and we try to do it in a more nuanced way. Tom, you're already talking about your high praise a bit with like Casa de Spurs, meeting more Spurs
Yeah.
fans. Maybe just elaborate a little bit more on
Yeah,
that.
Spurs. My high praise is for the Spurs organization. All of the work they did this week in engaging Austin. But it is, this is, we're in year four of a 40-year plan, you know. Um, the Spurs started engaging this community before they had Victor Wembanyama, when it was like making it work up here will be necessary for our success as a business. Then you land a guy who, in a very short time, has become a face, if not the face of the league, and the driving force behind an amazing team. And so this was the best uh, I-35 series week, Spurs Austin week on the court by far. It was also the best off the court, just in terms of the engagement that I'm seeing around this city when the Spurs are here doing their thing. Uh, this year there was no like competing with South by or collaborating with it, however that worked. But it felt like the Spurs were the main attraction in the city of Austin, coming off of Victor's All Star Week. Um, and the events crew that, you know, put all of this together is about to pack up and head to Paris, like we talked to Brandon James about a couple weeks ago on the show. Um, they are not playing a game there, but they are taking the blueprint that they have built here in Austin, and, world domination starts in your backyard. And they are really working hard to grow the game, grow their fan base. Uh, and it's really cool to see. As a marketing nerd myself, um, I and an Austinite, this is one of my favorite weeks of the year, always.
I also like this week because we don't have an hour and a half to 2 hour drive
Oh,
home after games. And I
yeah,
want to shout
low.
out all the Spurs reporters that went back and forth to San Antonio. I I feel for you, and also I'm glad you understand our lives now in covering the team. So uh, shout out to them. Zach, what do you got for high praise this week?
Y'all got to give me like 4 minutes here if you don't mind. I got a lot of numbers to throw at you. So if you're a numbers guy, get prepared because I got numbers for you. The
Hold
backcourt
on. He
for the
said
last.
4 minutes, and he's a numbers guy. Okay, let's go.
All right.
On the clock.
The backcourt for the last 5 games, these guys have been putting up a masterclass of why you don't question if it'll fit or not. Fox is fitting his role. Harper has come out of his rookie slump out of a cannon, and Steph Castle has found something over this stretch of games that really has him looking like an all-star. So, to back up what I'm saying, I have some numbers for you. I didn't put them in the podcast because I didn't even want you to see them because I want to surprise y'all.
No spoilers.
One of these guys from 0 to 5 feet. These guys are. I'll start with this. These guys, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, and Steph Castle, are getting to the lane and getting to 0 to 5 feet 12 and a half times a game. That is, they are getting in the lane and getting into you. This isn't like teardrops like Tony. This is, we're at the bucket. They're shooting combined 71% over the last 5 games as a crew in that span. Guys, one of these guys is shooting higher from the 0 to 5 feet mark than Wembanyama is. One of these guys is leading the team in 3-point percentage over the last 5 games. And one of these guys is leading the team in assists. Dylan Harper, 78.3% in the lane over the last 5 games.
Not surprising. He got over that
That's
rookie
higher than
slump.
that's higher than Wemby, by the way. Steph Castle, 72% in the lane over the last 5 games, 45% from three at 2.2 attempts a game. De'Aaron Fox, six assists a game, getting at 64% in the lane. Guys, these guys are doing it all different ways, but they're coming together and making this work together. This is we question a lot. Hey, how are they going to do it? It's only one basketball. Look, they can find a way to fit together. And look, and if you
Hold
can't
on, hold
stop them
on.
getting in the lane,
We have never
we
questioned that.
The
We
right,
have
world
never
at
right.
large
questioned this.
has.
The world at
Yeah.
large was very curious.
Now certain people that I won't mention have been worried about this. Guess what? Listen to Zach Montana on this random
There's
person.
nothing to be worried about here, guys. If Steph Castle can figure out 45% is whatever, but I will say over the last 10 games, he's shooting 37% from three, which is just below league average. Just below it. Also, his mid-range game from 15 to or from the mid-range technically outside the restricted area, shooting 80% over the last 5 games.
I think that's the real key right there is more than the 3 point attempts. I mean, I'm glad to see him at least, still foisting them up there. But yeah, that mid range game again, ever since his trainer, the guard whisperer, Mr. Owen, came up in January, really helped focus him on that again. And I think ever since that, and getting over the sickness he had during that time, we've really seen that mid range game come together.
It's over the last 9 games, Steph Castle. I have it right here. I can show you my graph I made.
I love your
See
little
this?
analog drawing. This is so goofy,
See this?
but great.
He scored 31 times in the paint in 9 games. 31. Steph Castle alone.
Someone called Kirk Goldsberry. Zach
You got
is
his number?
doing
Gra-
You're his
Zach is
boy.
doing the Lord's work with hand drawn shot charts like they used to
Non-graphic
Look,
do in
design is my passion.
1953.
I'm all about hand drawn. I see it. I write it. This is proof in the pudding that these guys are out here figuring it out together on the fly. Dylan Harper, by the way, the fact that he's shooting better than Wemby from 0 to 5 feet, like you gotta, he's 6. Wemby's a whole foot taller than him, and he's
And,
that
and
just
it's like
it's like
contested
mind
too.
boggling.
Like that dunk the other night where Wemby was like That was such a
You know, Wemby did that because he dunked on his best friend.
he. I think Wemby knows that he's memeable. I think he's very
That's
aware
fair.
of that, and
He's a showman.
he's a showman. He's absolutely a showman. Maybe the greatest. AB, what do you got for high praise?
Well, I think Zach, first and foremost, when he's drawing, these shot charts, he's like Leo in Titanic. Like, let me draw your shot chart like one of these French girls.
Yeah,
There you go.
Uh,
because it's a beautiful shot chart.
hey, you do what you want to do on your private time, brother. Like,
Hey, I'll
so,
make it happen. Don't worry.
uh, my high praise, and I'm going to keep it a bit Austin centric here, is to one Mr. Julian Champagnie. We are big fans of him here on the podcast already. And I don't think we could talk enough about his impact. But I want to kind of bring up that he is the only Spur that has played in every I-35 series game. There's no one else on the team that has done that. And I want to go back to his first stints in the games. Now, remember, this game first started as end of season. This was like in the last. It was not the last game, but it was the last third and second game of the year, and I feel like that was a place where Julian Champagnie really announced himself to the team. I cannot say to the league because the Spurs were not good at that time. It was in a more um, ethical, competitive regression, is what I will call it. Uh, but
That's
despite that,
good.
Julian,
Take notes, Adam
thank
Silver. Write
yeah,
that
thank
down.
you. Take notes, Brian Wright, Brandon James on the legal team. If anyone ever needs this, we are here to support ethical competitive regression. Shout out to lawyers that are doing the Lord's work everywhere. And Julian Champagnie in those games, he scored 24 points in both games. And today, coming here in his seventh and eighth games, he scored 8 with the team. Now, some similarities. He was a starter at that point because so many people were hurt slash sitting, ethically, competitively regressing. And in this instance, he's earned this. He has earned this role as a starter with the team. And average, and his plus minus, now remember, plus minus, it looks good when it helps your argument. He was both a plus 20 and plus 22 on 8 points scored. I want people to understand that that means our man out there was doing work on defense and shutting fools down. And so I just want to shout out to Julian Champagnie in relation to this Austin Spurs week. He's been a part of it. He's been a part of the G League team here. We've even seen him come up to support the G League guys as just someone who, you know, that we have taken a liking to, that we've gotten to really witness his growth. Um, I just thought this would be apropos for this situation. So, high praise to Julian Champagnie.
Maybe can I touch one thing? They actually asked him about that last or yesterday pregame, and he said that the Austin games in 2023 really opened his eyes and let him realize that he can be in the NBA. So it definitely helped those Austin games back in the day. They really grew some confidence in that guy as well.
Yeah, man. I think everybody learned how to pronounce his name during that time.
Hmm.
Champagne? Oh, it's Champagne. He's from the Champagne part of France. I talked to Maxime on Media Row about that last night. He understood.
Speaking of guys who were there at the beginning of the Austin series, Spurs legend Drew Eubanks played in that
Oh,
first
here
game,
we
but
go.
not for the Spurs, for the Portland Trailblazers.
So you were right, but you were wrong.
I was right, but I was wrong.
Okay, okay, we're moving on. This is too much Drew Eubanks talk on his first podcast.
No such thing.
Tom, don't derail me, but there's certainly too much Drew Eubanks talk on the
Yeah,
Spurs
there is.
podcast. Thank you. Okay, majority rule. We're moving on to questions for the week already. Thank God. All right. Oh, we want to jump to this first one. Okay, I'm so stoked to do this first one. All right, y'all. questions for the week. We only have two at the moment, according to our run of show, and I'm sure we'll go off the rails because Tom just really wants to talk about Drew
I'll
Eubanks
ask a
today.
third. I'll ask a third one.
I
It's
think
a
we'll.
vibes question. It's a vibes question. Very easy to
Okay.
answer.
Okay. Um. All right. Look, right now the national media is starting to talk about end of season awards or season long awards, and there's a real problem I have with this is that these folks are already like, oh, how do we crown SGA and Jokic with this? How do we get those guys another MVP in their for their trophy case? Well, let me tell you something. They're now kind of trying to like trickle in a little bit of like Cade Cunningham here. But you know who they're not talking about as much? Victor Wembanyama. I do not understand this. And so I want to do today. Look, we're having to do legwork for the national media folks. I mean, we already had to tell them about Julian Champagnie. We've already had to tell them that three guards can work for the Spurs. Oh my God. Last thing that we're going to try to help educate the masses on today is the case for Victor Wembanyama. So, to my fellow compatriots, what is your case right now for Victor Wembanyama? Zach, I'm going to let you go off first.
Yeah, I win a lot of numbers with the backcourt. I'm not going any numbers. I'm just going strictly off vibes. This is a vibes response because I know what the hell I'm watching. When BP is without a doubt a question why we need to be asking. There's no one does it better than him. How many players do what he does? No one. No one does what Victor Wembanyama does. Look at how his teammates talk about him. Look at how the coaches talk about him. Look at other players talk about him in the league. It's the most valuable player, and it's not the best player. It's the most valuable player who is brings the most value to a team. Well, Victor does it on both ends of the court, defensively, offensively, mentally, physically, emotionally. Look, we can say, AB, you're saying MVP. I'm saying Defensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and MVP. We're doing the trifecta. Give me the treble of these awards. Fuck the MVP. He deserves all three of them.
All right.
Yeah,
We got the vibes based answer first. I love this. Okay, Tom,
I
are
think the
you
mic
vibes
just.
based? Are you going statistical? What are we seeing here?
I I'm gonna go more narrative, I suppose. And I think the narrative, basically, Wemby has been pretty absent from the national conversations about end of season awards since he missed the time with the calf. And, I think that's because at that time people sort of assumed, oh, he's not going to make the threshold. I don't think that Victor Wembanyama is going to miss games down the stretch unless like his arm is falling off. We heard him talk a lot at All Star, and this weekend he was asked about it again, and he was basically like, you know, I want to go hard because I think about little Victor. Like I think about me as a kid, and that kid would be disappointed to see his older self mailing it in any capacity, right? He's going to be going hard for the rest of the year. Jokic and SGA, great offensive players. Cade Cunningham, great two-way player on like one of the best teams in the league, right? Um, but if you ask 30 GMs, you know, who's the better player right now? Who would you rather have on your team, Cade or Wemby? 30 GMs are going to say Wemby, and that's no disrespect to Cade. But I just, in addition to the, I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play well. The Spurs are dialing it in. Um, we've seen how many national TV games the Spurs have picked up in the home stretch. It's going to be home heavy. The revolution will be televised. People will be watching, and he's the best show in basketball. So I think that we're going to see a uh, a late push for MVP, not because he's pushing for MVP, but because he's trying to push his team to the top seed potentially. It's within
Yeah.
reach. It can happen.
I think it's within reach, and I'll also start with the narrative end of this. Um, NBA writers who vote for MVP typically get it wrong the season that the player is deserving of it. A few years ago, Joel Embiid finally won an MVP. And look, in the grand scheme of his career, this is the little nuance that like is not going to matter because it's going to be like, oh, Joel Embiid, like MVP of the league, and I forget which year. But the fact of the matter was, the year before he had better numbers, and then Jokic had better numbers the year that Joel Embiid won MVP. And so there becomes, I think, this voter fatigue around that. SGA and Jokic, when they have played great. And to Tom's point, again, I think that time during November when Wemby was out and the team still played well, that was, you know, pretty telling. But Jokic was out for an entire month as well. The team floundered a bit more. And now SGA is out with an abdominal strain. And I find it just kind of curious that there is still so much like statement of fact that's between these two. The defensive impact of Wemby is far more telling though than either of these. And this is what I think is going to come down with this narrative is finally having a designation for an overall player, not just on offense. We know that MVP is weighted heavily towards offense. We saw James Harden win multiple MVPs. We've seen Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook also win these. So I imagine that like this narrative is Wemby further announces himself to the league as there are more nationally televised games, that there is going to be a better understanding of blocks, which well defense, which by the way, Wemby has now taken the lead in overall blocks again, which surprise, surprise, like that wasn't going to happen. The other thing around this narrative, though, is that people want to see it in the playoffs. People want to see playoff success before they anoint someone, which I think is a little boomerfied, to be quite honest. It's not about the playoffs, it's about what you did in the regular season and rewarding that type of work. So, a couple of things that really stick out to me, and this is from Crafted NBA. Um, right now, SGA and Wemby have similar on off with a net of +9. Nikola Jokic is closer to +14 when he is not on. So, look, he's obviously very important to their team. I think where things are going to be once again different is on defensive impact. Uh, SGA has a higher offensive impact at +6.3, whereas Wemby's defensive impact compared to Shea is at 4.5. He is also doing this on lower usage than SGA currently. And where we'll find this again for Wemby with Jokic, Jokic again has a lower defensive impact that's closer to like 1.4 to Wemby's 4.5. Where this averages out is everybody is very close. And so when it comes to these numbers, you're going to just look for a bunch of nuance. Where Wemby, I think, has to improve, and Zach, you kind of already hinted at this with Dylan Harper having a better um, shots at the rim or percentage to Wemby. His true shooting percentage is not as high as either one of these. So being able to take better shots, win better shots, I think is going to be the key when people dive into the advanced numbers because frankly, there's not a lot of advanced numbers around defensive impact right now. We've talked in the past about nopes and how many people just don't shoot the ball because he's around it. You know, so being able to further calculate that type of defensive impact for him, I think, will be helpful in making him be an MVP candidate. So, um, yeah, that's what I'd
I've
say.
got a
I'd say he
question
needs to
for
be in the
you,
top
AB.
three.
I've got a question for you
Okay.
because you brought up voter fatigue, right? And I want both of your thoughts on this. Do you think that Wemby might be suffering, or might suffer, from something that I have just invented the term as pre-voter fatigue? Because everybody who is sending their ballots in knows that they're going to have to put this guy at the top for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year for the next, I don't know, decade, right? Like they can sense that, they can feel that. Do you think there's any element of like this might be the last chance for anybody to win one of these in a non-Wemby injury year? And like I haven't seen it
Here,
yet from Wemby, so I'm gonna
s
just go with one of them.
okay, so I think that could absolutely be the case with this. And the problem with that type of thinking is that it's trying to extrapolate this guy's career for multiple seasons. And I think that's just flat out wrong and the wrong way to be evaluating it. It should not be like, well, I know I'm going to do this for the next 10 years, so I want to make sure I don't do it now. This is what I'm talking about with like a guy like Joel Embiid really is like a perfect example of this. People were like, Joel Embiid will be this way forever, and now he's coming back and he's played a lot better. But like we know the dude has literal holes in his knees that didn't get to hold up for whatever was done with his body. So what I would encourage national media as they think about this sort of thing is to not do that, to be in the present. Because one of the things that I've talked about, especially with a guy like Victor Wembanyama, I don't think he's injury prone. Um, we've never seen something like this, and we should be enjoying it the whole way through. This should be a celebration. This should not be like, well, we'll anoint him eventually. Like, no, that is not how this works. And the dude, I think Victor probably has a hint of that. And so what I kind of keep seeing, and I think this is kind of like to the point with the first point he got on Mark Williams on against the Suns the other night. So I was like, okay, it looks like he got stronger. I don't know how he got stronger between All Star break and now, but Mark Williams earlier in the season was moving him around, and in that first one, he put his shoulder into him and got an easy layup. So I think the guy is getting stronger, and he dunked on two Suns, and then he did a windmill. So I think he's starting
If
to put
if
those
he's
viral
not
clips together,
if he isn't physically stronger, he's playing stronger, you know?
or at
My
least
thing with it
smarter.
is I think they're going to use the fact that he is so dominant on the defensive end to take away from the MVP votes, unfortunately, and look at it as an offensive hub instead of like, hey, he's already so good on the defensive end. We'll just give him the defensive player of the year and like he'll they'll shut up about it. The Spurs fans will be happy about it. I think that's the way I look. The national media will look at it this year, which is completely unfortunate because of course he is the best player on defensive end. Like there's no doubt in my mind. I just feel like the national media will sit there and say, "Well, we're already giving him that award. We don't need to worry about giving him the MVP award." Kawhi got that same situation when he was in San Antonio.
Yeah.
We can't forget about that when he should have won both of them, and
He
they said, "Well, you're
deserved
getting one
that
of them.
Russell
Don't
Westbrook
complain."
MVP, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, look, we're really starting to sow our fringe podcasting roots with so much calling out of the mainstream media on this one. But you know what? You deserve it. So, Zach, you have the next question about the rodeo road trip coming up,
Oh yeah,
the
we
official
can.
like rodeo
Yeah.
road trip, unbroken up.
Yeah. So, what are y'all looking forward to, or what is one thing you're looking forward to seeing or finding out about this team over this week at the Rodeo Road Trip?
I think for
I'll
me,
start. Whoever wants to start off.
yeah, so for me, and we're already kind of seeing it a little bit. Um, we've got what 26 games left, and Mitch Johnson and the coaching staff and the organization, I think, spent a lot of the first portion of the season throwing as much at the wall as they could and seeing what sticks. And at this point, they've got, I think, a very good idea of what sticks. And now it's about dialing that process in. It's about, you know, cutting out the fluff. It's about, playing with a level, not just a level of intensity, but with a game plan where you're really deepening those pathways in the brain and on the court. Uh, because, as we know, this team hasn't played in the playoffs yet, right? Together. Um, and everybody keeps telling me that, you need to get your butt kicked, right? But I think it was Keldon said it last night, said it very well. we need to prepare like we've never been there before, right? And so very interested to see the on court process and sort of the dialing in that happens there from a coaching perspective. What about you, AB?
I keep wanting to try to find some way to ask Mitch Johnson this, because he is so process oriented. But in that process, I am seeing the pace get picked up, um, to a blistering pace, within the team. I don't have like a full on stat about this just yet, but one of the things that I like to think about with pace is literally just like how soon are you crossing half court. And at the beginning of the season, I saw a little bit closer to like 21, 20 seconds. And now it's like at 22 seconds. And Stephon Castle last night had a play where he immediately saw an opening when he crossed half court. He was at the rim in 19 seconds, like just on the shot clock.
I'm
So
worried about
I,
Mitch Johnson's rotator cuff, the way he plays third base coach when somebody gets a rebound. It is like full like Pete Townsend guitar playing.
yeah, but there, so I am curious on this rodeo road trip, especially against, Monday night against the Pistons, then the next game against the Raptors, who are a long team, and then against the Knicks, who, the Jeremy Sohan reunion game, um, who are going to want to play slower, what that does, because I feel like this is something that keeps evolving. The team seems to know when to shift into that gear again. I feel like they come out playing fast, and then there's something about like slowing down a little bit, and then they hit this next gear again in the fourth quarter. In the last 12 games, they are top five in the league according to StatMuse in pace at 101 possessions per 48 minutes. Just to give you a hint of like who else is in there, no one in the top six in the East or West is in that category of pace right now. The next one that's actually closest to them is the Detroit Pistons. But we're talking about teams. Well, no, I guess maybe the Heat are. I haven't looked at the Heat, but we're talking like Grizzlies, in that pace. We're talking about the Bulls. We're talking about, um, the Wizards, I think, are in that too. So it's kind of interesting to see that correlation that like one of the best teams is playing at a pace where some of the worst teams in the league are playing at, right now. But I am once again curious because, to Mitch Johnson's point, last night the Spurs lost the turnover battle. They play fast. And so, how is he going to manage between pushing the pace, keeping to this process, and limiting especially like young player mistakes? I think that's going to be kind of the puzzle piece, but this pace also mitigates the quote unquote bad shooting of the team. They play defense, they play transition defense, they get the ball going quickly the next way. So that's what I'll be looking forward to. Zach, what about
AB,
you?
can I? AB, I'm going to add two stats to what you're talking about because I was on this last night as well. They are efficient in the fast break. They're actually top two in the fast break efficiency over the last three games, and they're top six in fast break points per game over the whole season involved. So they do like to get out and run.
Least surprising stat, I
Yep.
gotta say on that.
Yep.
Like they are pushing it, so much there. What do you got, Zach?
Man, I have my eyes locked in on Monday. We're gonna get into this Pistons game here in a bit with what they do and how they operate. I think it's gonna be a fun game, but Harrison Barnes had a great. You mentioned Keldon Johnson talking about preparing for the unknown and how to prepare for it. I think Harrison Barnes also said that these next 30 games, these next 20 something games are dress rehearsals for the big deal. And as much as you can, those are live reps. You can do anything you want in practice, but those are live reps. And quite frankly, I'm excited with what this week is going to show this team and what this next 2 months is going to show this team. We're going to find out a lot about this group very quickly if they're growing up, and they're going to have to grow up on the fly. We talked about on the job training a lot in these podcasts that we talk about with this team. And the Spurs even understand they're training on the job. They're learning on the fly. Um, So I just am excited to see this team grow. The maturation process of this team within the next week. They play some really good basketball teams. They play some bad basketball teams. They play some of the best basketball teams in the league. So you're going to see a lot of mix, and a lot of these teams they're playing play a different style of basketball. They all play a different style of basketball. You have Detroit, who's a very hard nosed team. You have the Toronto Raptors, who are very fast, like to get out and run, just like the Spurs do. And you have the Nets, who are just the Nets. So I just think you really have
Very
a
descriptive on the Nets. The Nets are
yeah.
just the
People,
Nets. You could just say they
you, I don't
suck.
have I don't want to be rude, but the Nets are just the Nets. So this week will just be a. We saw that the Spurs touched on it that the last 8 games were against teams that were lower opponents, and they wanted to see how they responded to that because they have issues with that. Well, now they play some really good opponents, and the Spurs do like to play up to their opponents. So I'm just excited to see how they match it.
Well, with that being said, let's get into next week's games. Look at this, Spurs fans. They're on an East Coast road trip. You know what's good about this for everyone?
I already know what you're gonna
Games
say.
start early.
Yeah,
You start at 6 o'clock Central, 6:30 Central. You can,
that's great.
either have your kids watch it with you, or don't. I don't know what time they go to bed. But with that being said, first game, I'd say really big game against Detroit Pistons in Detroit against Kate Cunningham, another MVP candidate making his case. Detroit Pistons are 8-2 in their last 10. Um, if anyone's wondering, hey, is Beef Stew going to play in this game? He's not. He's still suspended from doing something very cool and trying to punch Miles Bridges, which I encourage all NBA players to do. Um, from there, I am curious though with this Suns team because there's someone that like people say, oh, they can't shoot. Oh, they like to play transition defense. Oh, they like to run. Does this sound familiar to anyone?
They were terrible 3 years ago.
Whoa, okay. Uh, so look, regardless of even if Beef Stew's not out there, Jalen Duren's going to play, and I can only imagine that this is going to be a physical game. I assume we'll see the other Thompson brother who can't shoot, Asar, on Wemby. Um, and I'll be curious again how they guard Cade. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is necessarily going to be the one to take on that assignment with him as much as it's going to be a rotation of Castle and Champagnie, maybe a little Vassell on some switches for him. But I think this is going to be an awesome game to watch. And lastly, before I get off my high horse about what I'm seeing with this game, I want to shout out JB Bickerstaff. We shared a roulette table in Vegas this last summer, and he was really supportive of his other coaches and teammates winning money on that roulette table. I thought that was just like, I was like, hey, that's a pretty solid dude right there. Um, what do you guys got for this game?
This is a good old fashioned dogfight. Both teams love to get downhill and score in the paint, and and they're both extremely stubborn on the back end of their defense. Both rank in the top 7 in points allowed in the paint, and both love to get in the paint and score. We talked about it earlier with the Spurs three-headed monster. The Detroit Pistons actually love getting in the paint and scoring too. They're top 5 in that as well. So you need to be prepared for some fouls, maybe some hard fouls, some good old fashioned dog fights. This is gonna be this might feel like a 2005 finals. The way these teams sometimes these two teams aren't the best shooting teams. They love getting in the lane and they love playing defense. So this should be a good one, boys.
We've been talking
Please
about
score
dress
points.
rehearsals. Say again.
No 70-point games, AB.
Please score points.
Yeah. The no dunks guys were talking about if it is a Spurs Pistons finals, I would like for one team to score more than 100 points one time.
One
Um,
time. That's all we're
but
asking for.
but we've been talking about dress rehearsals. We've been talking about physicality, right? You're not going to get a better dress rehearsal. You're not going to get a better test of your growth in terms of answering physicality than playing against this Pistons team this year. It's going to be really fun to watch for Wemby and for everybody else. In that Kings game, we saw Wemby getting to the rim as aggressively as maybe all season he has. Will the Spurs be able to attack against that Pistons defense? And as far as who's checking Mr. Cake Cunningham's uh, Castle, man, like got to get up in that jersey, bro. Like he's strong as hell. This is strength against strength. This is going to be one of it's on paper it looks like one of the great games of the year and would be a really fun NBA Finals. So
It would be. I expect on this one. I think Wemby's got to hit a few more threes to stretch out that defense of them.
30%
And
over
if
the
Steph,
last 5 games, AB. So he needs to get picked that up.
yeah, he's definitely not been. His shots have not been like terrible. They're just not dropping. They're a
Right.
little back of the rim on that. So, but we've seen
He's
that
got
he can.
legs.
No, when he starts splashing it, he starts splashing it. So
Right.
I think that will be a real key on this one though is Wemby's 3-point shooting for success for the Spurs. Then they are going just across the lake to Toronto. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can actually see Canada from Detroit, by the way. If y'all have ever been, shout out to Detroit. I think it's an awesome city. Um, and as they play the Raptors, look, the Raptors are the most decent team in the league. They're currently, I believe, 33 and 32. They win the games that they're supposed to win. They lose the games that they're not favored in. They're not like the only reason I know more about the Raptors is because of the No Dunks guys being from the area. They
they're
are
they're 33
also
and 23 this year. They're 10 games over 500.
33 and 23. I
Yeah.
misread that. Apologies then. I was also like 33 and 32. That seems like a lot more games. So thank
Playing
you
a
for the
lot more
correction, Tom.
games.
But their offensive attack is pretty balanced. It's not necessarily going to be like key in on Brandon Ingram and that's it. Um, the thing with this team, though, is that they are long, but they are not tall. And their defensive anchor, Jakob Pertl, has been dealing with a back injury all season. I don't know if he's going to play this game, if he's like finally back or not at this point. So look for again like Colin Murray Boyles. He was having some Wemby duty at the beginning of the season against that Raptors team when they were in San Antonio. He had some interesting things against them, but look, the Spurs should take care of business on this one. But I don't know. I've seen Scotty Barnes kind of start elevating himself into a Spurs killer. What do you guys got?
This team plays fast. They're very efficient in the fast break, as I mentioned earlier. This is you hit the nail on the head, though. This is exactly what I wrote down, that they beat the team they're supposed to beat, and they lose the team they're supposed to lose to. And feels like a trap game. I feel like every game in Toronto is a tough one for some reason. They cross there's like a few Eastern Conference teams that the Spurs go play every year, and it's like, oh, this could be a tough game. And this is one of them. So, and of course, with it being on the back end of hopefully a Detroit win, hopefully the team can keep the momentum and get into that Toronto game and get another dub.
Buttle to the trap game. It will be the Raptors' second game on a back to back where they'll
Yeah.
play the Thunder the night before. So
Oh
the
wow,
Spurs will have the
Davis,
rest advantage in that
That
one.
is a brutal
talk about a
stretch.
gauntlet.
Whew. Yeah, I would love to see Spurs legend Jakob Pertl in this game. He was ahead of the depth chart of Spurs legend Drew Eubanks, but yeah, no, this team is
There
super
we
duper
go.
long. The the bunch of wings that you can throw at Wemby deal is an interesting blueprint, and I think they're gonna do their best. I think they're gonna do their damnedest. I think the Spurs are gonna win by double digits. And I think the next game is, I mean, it's the Nets. What do we need to say about the Nets? I don't have much to say about the Nets, but win
This is
this
a
game.
stack wins and take care of business game. That's
Don't
all it
let
is.
Michael Podcast Jr. go crazy on you.
Look, the Nets game should be taken care of. It will be a back to back for the Spurs. It is not a long flight from Toronto to New York
An
or
hour.
Brooklyn, however they're coming. Um, be wary though. This is a team that is also uh, being paid to play basketball. I think Nick Claxton has been a pretty good defender on Wemby, and regardless of where he's looking for his next contract, whether it's with the Nets or in the league, I feel like he does take some of this Wemby duty seriously. Um, the other thing with this, though, is look, Michael Porter Jr. can't go scorched earth at any point um, against them. So, and we're going to be on the rest disadvantage in this game. Not just rest disadvantage, but also traveling for it. So,
Don't care.
yes,
Kill him.
I agree with y'all. This should be a TCOB type of situation. Of course, the Nets are also. Well, wait, no. I only say that we are ethically regressing our competitive advantage for the Spurs. The Nets are tanking. Okay, Adam Silver. Just for you to hear that part out loud. So, I mean,
Find
look,
him.
it should be taken care of with that. All right, fellas. I mean, they're yeah, truly. What we go like under a minute on the Nets? Yeah, okay, that's about this time of year when there's teams that are doing shit like this. All right,
We've
let's get
been
to
there, AB.
records. Let's get to records for the week. No, we have never been there, Zach. We ethically
Ethically, yeah, you're
regressed
right.
our competitive advantage.
Naturally,
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. We were following the proper evolution of our basketball team,
Darwin.
which was not in a way that negated wins. So,
Lawyered.
man, I could do this all day. But with that being said, and to give us our time back in our Sundays, what is y'all's record for the week? Okay, look, I actually again I know this. Both you boys are going undefeated this week. Is that correct? 3-0.
Until you prove me otherwise, I'm gonna keep saying they're 11 win streak until when you see me next time.
Yeah,
All right,
I want to see that. And I think they're gonna do it. Yeah, 11 game winning
cool. I'm
streak.
gonna go 2-1.
Yeah, of
Sure.
course. Which
I'm.
game?
I think the gonna lose to the Pistons.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, we should not lose to the Nets. But I know
No,
there were some people last night against the Kings that were like, "What? They're up one?" And I'm like, I,
It'll be
I don't
fine.
know how to tell you. Like this happens. This is just the flow of the game. It's gonna be fine. Like
and it was.
it was literally like when Wemby comes in the game, they're going to win the game. Which I'm not saying that's still the best formula, but that is just the way things are laying out for this team right now. Um, with that being said, what do you guys got to tell the people before we dip?
Love you guys. Had so much fun here in Austin. Thank you everybody who came out. Thank you everybody who came up. Spurs Nacho. Glad you got into the second game.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Well, welcome to my city, baby. It's been fun.
Yeah, no, I think this week was awesome. Spurs, I think, gained a shit ton of fans in Austin. I think it's very easy to do when you have a very good basketball team. Winning cures all, and I think this team is winning, and it's fun to watch. And my mom called me last night, and she was like, "I think I'm to the point where I'd be very mad when this team wins." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's where we're at with this. This is expectations that we're building, and that's what I want to see." So, shout out to the Spurs for doing that.
I actually think I want to build on that a little bit more because I do feel the change in mood overall with the Spurs fan base and even for myself now of like, no, I expect to win this. This is like the expectations have been raised. And um, what I'll say with that too is that once again, this is the fun part of this sort of thing. This team will eventually be vilified by the league because that's what they do. But right now, I don't even know if we're darlings. You know, this goes back to my case for Wemby for MVP. So what I hope to see with this though is that truly, truly, truly enjoy the ride. This team is so much fun. They are only getting better, and now they're starting to play at this blistering pace with the tallest man in the NBA, blocking everything under the sun. It is fun times. I hope this week just brings out at least one really fun game, if not multiple. And look, And also to the event staff, I hope you'll have safe travels to Paris this week. You're going to have a hard time finding anything bad to eat there as well. Thank you again to everybody that listens, watches, participates in any form of support for this podcast. Truly, we can't do it all ourselves, so we really appreciate that. Hope you share this again with some friends and enemies. Comment, send questions. We'll do our best to answer them. In fact, you sending questions makes our lives a lot easier as well. And we will see y'all out in the streets very soon. Peace out.
Peace out. Go Showtime Spurs.